So I know you've, of course, from the movie, but your latest book that came out was Captive. And what gave you the idea to make that book?
Well, the ethics of captivity is very much something that's on the table these days internationally. We're seeing the conversations in mainstream media and everywhere, and so I wanted to make a contribution to that conversation. And I knew I could best do that by taking images of animals the way I see them, um, you know, within the constructs of captivity, the locks, the fences, the ridiculous paintings, the murals on the background, the loneliness, and so I teamed up with the Born Free Foundation, and I traveled across Europe, which meant I had a large body of work at this point to make a book, and that's why I did it. I felt like it was timely.
And is it also because all the discussion you have now about orcas and SeaWorld, and was that also a reason to
Yeah,
do it?
yeah, exactly. Because of the orcas of SeaWorld, as you mentioned, because of the film Blackfish, because of the shooting death of Harambe the gorilla, because of the cull of Marius the giraffe in Copenhagen. These have all launched a very public debate about the ethics of captivity. And yeah, again, so it's very timely.
And you're also busy with the Unbound project still.
Yeah, I love this project because it's very solutionary, which is kind of a buzzword these days. It's solutions journalism. I've spent about 15 years now documenting the really atrocious things that we do to animals, and I continue to do that. But it's also really important to um, provide solutions for people. And so the Unbound Project shows women on the front lines of animal advocacy worldwide, and it's a focus specifically on women because they are so underrepresented in the movement, even though they make up 60 to 80% of the animal rights movement. They often aren't in leadership roles. And so this is a historical and contemporary project that celebrates women and their achievements. And I hope that, and it does, inspire people to do the same kind of things that these women are doing. They're running sanctuaries, they are scientists, they are lawyers, and I had mentors to look up to, and they helped guide my career, like Jane Goodall, for example. And so I also want to provide that for our audience, for them to have a lot of really interesting people to look up to.
What does your day look like? What are you like day to day? Because you have the Unbound project, the We Animals book, and Captive, but the books already came out. But what do you do? How does your activism life? What does it look like?
Well, the life of any photojournalist is one that is on the road, and it's one of trying to balance home life and family life and friendships with the work. And most photojournalists and especially activists are extremely passionate and dedicated to what they're doing. And so I am a typical workaholic. It causes problems for me, but I also really love my work. Like, I'm just so compelled to continue telling stories. So I'm on the road a lot with speaking engagements and shoots. And for the last number of years, I've been on the road 6 to 8 months a year. And but I have a team now. We have a great team, from the communications director to social media people, archivist, editor, filmmaker. And so now we have a lot of people, which means a lot of projects, which means project management. And yeah, so there's a lot of computer time and desk time as well, which is just fine with me.
And the problems that comes with it are mostly, is that family? Is that your own the stress level in yourself from the things you see, or is that with like spending enough time with your family, or
Yeah, spending enough time with my loved ones. I just feel constantly very driven to work, and the price I pay is that I don't have, the same kind of family time that a lot of people have. But that's my own fault, and we all have our own struggles in life, and certainly mine is, a search for a balance. And having said that, I read somewhere recently that balance is overrated, and I was like, I love that quote.
yeah, but I read that too, that it's like how we think now. It's like it's not anymore that we put so much importance to it, but maybe the whole stress is a good thing. Like the whole, maybe some people are just like go well on that, and they
I,
use.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I seem to thrive on a very busy schedule, big ideas, implementing new projects and making things move forward. Like it's just what I love to do, especially because there is such an emergency for animals every single day. We are just doing the most unconscionable things to them, to billions of animals every single day. And I live with this knowledge and with this feeling of emergency for them because I'm on the front line so much. Just recently, I was shooting in Israel and Turkey, photographing live export and the shipment of animals. I photographed a ship coming in from Australia to Israel. It had been on the water almost 3 weeks. We put animals through terrible stress for no reason. And so because I'm so close to it all the time, I feel very compelled to keep pushing to work hard.
But how do you deal with the stress of actually so I see videos of things that other people make, and watching a video is already very stressful, but it's still a video that you can pause or push away. But how your life there, so you can't, how do you how do you deal with that when you go home? Like that those images, do they remain in your brain, in your mind?
They do, but I have healthy barriers, which took some time. You know, I have suffered from PTSD and depression in the past as a result of everything that I'm seeing constantly. You know, I photograph the animals. I rarely get to help those individuals. So I'm trying to change the course of history and how we treat them, but I always have to leave those animals behind. And so it is very painful, but I I know that if I live in that pain, I will burn out. And that's what happens to a lot of activists because we care so much and the work is slow moving and it's painful work. And if we are emotional about it all the time, it makes us exhausted. And so I have healthy boundaries, as I was saying, like healthy walls between me and the emotions related to what I know is happening all the time. Uh, yeah, I mean, it is traumatizing and horrible, but I just have to focus on doing what I can. So yeah. We all need to use our skills, whatever they are. And so that's why I use photography. It's what I've been, it's my profession as well. You know, we need lawyers, we need scientists, we need artists, we need journalists, we need people who aren't going to be afraid to challenge the status quo. And there are so many annoying projects out there in the world that come close to it, but they just will not push things a little farther. And I won't name projects, but there's just one on my mind. You know, it's about like feeding the world and like how do we provide food to 7 billion people, but like they won't touch the harder subjects. And you know, a lot of people are just simply like vaguely opposed to vegetarianism or veganism. And and so then they end up doing these big projects on how to feed the world, but it's like, no, you're missing a huge and easy solution here. And it's to take all those grains that we feed animals and feed them to ourselves. You know, things like that. It's really frustrating to see these important new ideas um, not being addressed. And
Yeah, exactly. To make the biggest change in that, yeah. And what have you seen the past 20 years? Do you see it changing vegan activism?
yeah, I'm very thankful for that. Because we're not just doing the same kinds of things all the time. And again, it's about thinking more strategically, and that's why animal rights is also a lot more corporate now, and the field of law has grown. You know, all of these fields where there were very few people advocating on behalf of animals, and like you know, veganism, the new kind of foods that we can eat that are so delicious. So that's how the animal movement has grown and it's fabulous. But you know, we're also seeing the growth of animal eating in different parts of the world. So though we see positive change, we also see negative change, and that's also simply a result of changing economies and rising population, the ever rising population.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a huge problem, I think. And what you're saying, if there that doesn't it? Okay, this must frustrate you. But now that I read so much now about all these solutions, and then the solutions are so simple, but then people just don't even like becoming like I wrote an article on like 3 reasons to become a vegan, and it's like for your health or but also just for the environment, and it's like proven, everything is proven. It's the best thing you can do for the environment instead of showering less is basically just don't eat meat. And
Yeah.
still with that on black, like it's proven by scientists, and people are just not doing anything. You would think governments would promote it then. This is how we'll save the planet. But
So this is very interesting what you're saying, because then it becomes a matter of how do we get people to care? And the only way we're going to get governments to care, because they don't, most of them, most politicians don't actually care, is like you have to get the economy to change. You have to get the economies to shift. And like, where's the money? Who's spending money where? And that's where investments are going to get made in a lot of cases. And also back to what you said, you can make all these points, these points you simply can't argue with, like that it's better for the planet, the animals, our health, etc. So how do you get them to care? And so I think that's why it's important to speak with young people and get them to, like, for me, it's not just about telling stories to them about animals and getting them to meet the individuals. It's about empowering them to care and to act. I want them to feel good about being compassionate. I don't want them to feel embarrassed or ashamed about wanting to be a vegetarian. I want them to be like, man, like this is amazing. Like living kindly feels so good. But they don't have a lot of support, right? Like with families, or they still, vegetarians, there's still maybe like one or two in each classroom. And so we really need to move things in that direction. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do.